Hello. Oops. Just waiting for people to join. I'm late to my own stream, as per usual. I was supposed to start at 3. Did I? No. Right now, I'm stuffing my Rumble plushie, which I haven't worked on, so it's been kind of there. Look at this, though. So fluffy. Okay. We'll start reading whenever there's, like, at least 2 people. When the timer gets to 5 minutes, I'll read. I'm stuffing him. Her leg is so fat. Stuff her. Oh no, there's a rip right there. I'm gonna have to sew that back up. Hello. Let me... That leg still looks off. The body looks so stupid. It does look better now that it's stuffed, though. I just need to make the head and sew a tail on there. I haven't done that yet. Yeah, but this is Rumble, the Rumble plush. I will start making Spring Diner plushies. Honestly, I'd sell them if I could. But here we go. There's my Rumble plush. I stuffed it. Something's wrong with this arm. Okay. I think I stuffed her a little too much. She's fat now. There. Okay. Move over there. Some stuff in the way. Okay. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go get some water because I'm gonna be talking so much. So I'll be right back. I'll be right back. And I'm gonna mute so you guys don't hear background music. Okay, I'm back. Let's start reading. Going to the beach. I haven't been to the beach in like years. I'm gonna put my little Rumble on her canvas over here. I'm gonna make this my profile picture with like Rumble and a canvas. Oh my gosh, stand. Paintbrush. Yeah, painting. Okay. We're gonna start reading FAZBEAR. This is the second book because you guys actually wanted me to read this. Now I think I've read the first book of this. I've read that so many times that I memorized it, but I've only read this one once. This will be the second time I'm reading it. So, but yeah, this is Fetch. Now you guys know that there's 3 stories in here, so it might take us a minute to finish the book. This one is long. I'll probably only be on here for an hour, so yeah. Hello. Oh, I got some water, so hopefully my voice doesn't run dry again. Table of contents. Fetch, Lonely Freddy, and Out of Stock. Okay. Fetch. I hate how they do this. Like, it's like, and then the text is white. I don't know. It just throws me off, I guess. The surf, the wind, the rain, and the rain were at war, battering against the old building so forcefully. Gregory, Greg wondered if its crumbling walls could stand against them. The brawling thunder blasted the boarded-up window again, and Greg jumped back, stumbling into Cyril? Cyril? Is that how you say that name? Cyril? Cyrus? Just gonna call him Cyrus at this point. Hold on. Something's off. Something's off about this. Ooh, okay. Okay. My setup was different. There we go. Okay, yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay. Let me turn on my light too. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Let me restart. The surf, the wind, and the rain were at war, battering against the old building so forcefully, Greg wondered if its crumbling walls could stand against them. When the brawling thunder blasted the boarded-up window again, Greg jumped back, stumbling into Cyril and stomping on his foot. Ow! Cyril shoved Greg, jabbing his flashlight spastically at the wall in front of them. The light scanned over over drooping sections of the blue and striped wallpaper, and what looked like 2 letters. What looked like 2 red letters, FR. Streaks of something dark sprayed over the stripes. Was that pizza sauce or something else? Hattie, what kind of names are these? Hattie? Moneymaker! Hi. We're reading Fetch today. Hattie laughed at his 2 bumbling friends. It's just the wind, guys. Suck it up. Another gust hit the building, and the walls shuddered, drowning out Hattie's voice. The rain pounded on the metal. Okay, hold on. I gotta put my elbow on there. Okay. The rain Wait. I already forgot what I was reading. The rain pounding on the metal roof ratcheted up, but inside the building, close by, something metallic clinked loud enough to be heard over the wind and rain. What was that? Cyril whirled and swung his flashlight in a wild arc. At barely 13, Cyril was a year younger than Greg and Hattie. Though still in their fledgling freshman class. Fledgling freshman. What? I don't think you're a freshman at 13. You're like 7th grade. Whatever. Barely 13. Cyril was younger than his friends. Okay. Though in still their fledgling freshman class, he was short and skinny with boyish features and limp brown hair, and he had the misfortune of sounding like a cartoon mouse. It didn't win him many friends. Let's go check out the old pizzeria. Cyril mimicked Greg's suggestion. Yeah, this was a great idea. Oh, so they're messing around in an old pizzeria. It was a crisp autumn night down the sea, and the sea. It was a crisp autumn night, and the seaside town was dark, robbed of power by the latest storm's assault. Greg and his friends had planned a Saturday of gaming and junk food, but as soon as the power went out, Hattie's parents tried to recruit them for a board game, the family's tradition during power outings. Hattie had convinced his parents to let the boys bike the short distance to Greg's house, where they could play one of Greg's new laptop strategy games instead. But once there, Greg enlisted them to go to the pizzeria. For days, he'd known he had to do this. It was like he was drawn to this place. Or maybe he had it all wrong. This could be a wild goose chase. Greg shined his flashlight around the corridor. They'd just explored the kitchen of the abandoned restaurant and had been shocked to find it was still stocked with pots, pans, and dishes. Who closed a pizzeria and left all that stuff behind? Suspicious. Gotta get a drink. My water bottle is leaking. It just spilled on me. Nice. Okay. After they left the kitchen, they found themselves next to a large stage at one end of what had once been the main eating area of the derelict pizzeria. A heavy black curtain at the back of the stage was drawn closed. None of the boys had volunteered to see what was behind the curtain, and none of them had mentioned seeing the curtain move when they passed the stage. Hattie laughed. Better than hanging out with the fam. Hey, what's that? What's what? Cyril aimed his flashlight in the direction of Hattie's gaze. Greg turned his flashlight that way too, toward the far corner of the large, table-filled room they stood in. The glowing beam landed on a row of hulking shapes that lined up along the murky glass counter. Bright eyes reflected back at them from across the room. Cool, Hattie said, kicking aside a broken table leg as he made his way to the counter. Maybe, Greg thought, frowning at the eyes. One pair seemed to be staring right back at him. Despite the confidence he felt before, he was beginning to wonder what exactly he was doing here. Hattie approached the counter first. This is dope! He reached for something and sneezed when dust billowed up from the stand. Before they left his house, Greg had suggested they all take handkerchiefs to cover their noses and mouths, but he couldn't find any. He expected to find the empty restaurant filled with dust, mold, and mildew, and who knew what else. Surprisingly, given the wet coastal climate, the only decay they've seen was dust, but there was a lot of dust. Greg stepped around an overturned metal chair and past Cyril, who had his bag pressed into a dirty, paint-peeled pillar in his back. Not his bag. He had his back pressed to a dirty, paint-peeled pillar in the middle of the dining area. Other than one broken table and two upside-down chairs, the area looked like it had just needed a heavy cleaning before it could be fit for dinners. Diner? No, dinner. Which again was strange. Greg had known something would be here, but he didn't expect the building to hold dishes and furniture and what else? Greg looked around at what Hattie had. He sucked in his breath. What is was this what he come for? Was this why the old place was calling to him? What is it? Cyril asked, not moving any closer to the counter. I think it's a cat. Hattie turned the lumpy, roughly furred object he held. Or maybe a ferret? He poked at whatever it was. Might be an animatronic. He put it down and shined his light over the other shapes along the counter. Yeah, awesome. They're prizes, see? Hattie scanned his light over the stiff figures. That explained the cave-like cubbyholes that lined the broad hallway Greg and his friends had come along through to get to the dining area. The little enclosures must have been for arcade cabinets and game booths. I can't believe these are all still here, Hattie said. Yeah, Greg frowned, studying what looked like a stiffened sea otter and a tangled octopus. Why are they still here? The old pizzeria had stood, boarded up and bombarded by coastal storms and sea air, for who knew how long. The structure was clearly abandoned, and it looked just old. It looked not just old, but ancient, on the verge of collapse. The graying and weathered siding was so faded you could barely tell what it was. The name of the pizzeria was long gone. So why did it look like so good on the inside? Well, not good exactly, but from where Greg stood, the building looked sturdy enough to stand another 100 years. Greg and his parents had moved to the small town when he was in the first grade, so he knew the place well, but he didn't really understand it. For example, he'd always thought it was strange that a boarded-up pizzeria had been left untouched, in what was supposed to be a vacation spot. But then again, this wasn't exactly a swanky resort town. Greg's mom called it a hodgepodge. Big fancy homes could be found across the street from a tiny ugly beach. Across from the street from tiny ugly beach cabins draped in dirty fishing floats and surrounded by piles of old lumber or crumbled up lawn furniture. The house across from Greg's had a huge boxy sedan, like like from the 70s, up blocks in the front yard. Still, Greg wondered why a pizza place couldn't be turned into something useful instead of being left a gnarled ghost building that practically screams break in to local kids. But weirdly, it didn't look like anyone had broken in before Greg, Cyril, and Hattie did. Greg figured they'd find footprints, trash, graffiti, evidence that other explorers had been here before them, but nothing. It was like the place was abandoned, dripped in formaldehyde, and preserved until Greg suddenly felt like he was supposed to come here. I bet these are still here because they're really good prizes, Hattie said. No one ever wins the good prizes, Cyril piped up. He had edged a little closer to the counter, but he was still several feet away. There aren't any clowns, Cyril. Greg had to assure Cyril there wouldn't be any clowns in the abandoned restaurant in order to convince Cyril to come along. Not that Greg knew one way or the other. What's that one? Cyril pointed at a large-headed figure with a big nose. It sat under It sat under a sign that read Top Prize. Greg picked it up before Hattie could. It was heavy, and its fur felt matted and coarse. He was oddly drawn to the animal, whatever it was. He studied the pointed ears and sloped forehead and big snout and piercing yellow eyes. But he noticed the blue collar around the animal's neck. Something gleaming dangled from the collar. A dog tag? He lifted it up. Fetch, Hattie read over Greg's shoulder. It's a dog named Fetch. Greg loved dogs for the most part, but he hoped to never see one like this one in real life. He held the dog up and turned it over this way and that. Even the vicious old dog that lived next door to Greg wasn't this ugly. Fetch looked like someone had crossed the big bad wolf with the shark from Jaws. Surely it was a he? His, oh wait, surely it was a he. Head was triangle and pointy on top with a mouth far too wide for comfort at the bottom. Fetch's fur, which looked grayish-brown in the splotchy glow of their flashlights, was missing in places, revealing tarnished metal beneath. A couple of wires stuck out of the ears, and partially exposed cavity in Fetch's belly revealed what it looked like a primitive circuit board. Look at this! Cyrus was surprisingly now interested in the counter. He picked up a small booklet inside a plastic sheath. I think it's the instructions. Let me see. Greg plucked the booklet from Cyril's grasp. Hey! Cyril squeaked. Greg ignored his protest. This could be it. Putting Fetch back on the counter, he pulled the booklet from the plastic and scanned through instructions. Hattie read over his shoulder. Cyril stuck his head between Greg's chest and the booklet, forcing Greg to hold the book farther out so they could all read together. Fetch, the instructions explained, was an animatronic dog designed to sync up with your phone and receive information and other things for you. That's lit, Hattie said. Think it still works? How long has this place been empty? Greg asked. Fetch looks like he's older than my dad, but smartphones haven't been around that long. Hattie shrugged. Greg finally did too. He began poking around Fetch to find the control panel. Hattie and Cyril lost interest. It isn't going to work. It's older tech. It won't be compatible with our phones, Cyril said, cringing when the wind surged against the building again. Greg felt a chill slither down his spine. Whatever it was, related to the wind's eerie onslaught or something else, he wasn't sure. Greg turned his attention to Fetch. He wanted to see if he could get the dog thing to do whatever it was supposed to do. He had a hunch this might be what he'd felt in the field, what had called him here. Cyril's pessimism about Fetch didn't surprise Greg. He wouldn't know an opportunity if it thumped him between the eyes. Hattie, on the other hand, was relentlessly positive. He had a sunny disposition. He'd pulled off whatever Greg thought was nothing less than a magic trick. Hattie was accepted by the popular crowd, despite having spent most of his time with Greg and Cyril, two of the nerdiest kids in school. I need a drink. My throat is burning. Okay. Here we go. Maybe it had something to do with his looks. Greg had heard girls talking about Hattie. Hattie was either fine, hot, cute, sharp, or just, depending on the girl who was talking. Hattie wandered away from the counter, and Cyril plopped down in a chair at the nearest table. I think we should go, he said. Nah, Hattie brushed him off. There's still a lot to check out. Greg ignored them both. He picked up Fetch and found a panel under Fetch's belly. Juggling the instructions, Fetch, and his flashlight, Greg bit his lip and concentrated on hitting the right buttons in the right sequence. For an instant, the wind and rain let up, leaving the building in silence that felt almost menacing. Greg glanced up at the ceiling. He noticed a large stain above his head. A water stain? Distracted from his task for a second, he shined his light over the whole ceiling. No other stains, in fact. Why wasn't the whole inside of the restaurant dripping? He thought... What was that? Bruh. I look up and that's all I see. Nothing. It's clearing my notifications. Okay. Okay. Okay, so he thought he'd seen part of the metal roof missing when he'd first looked at the building. Why wasn't it leaking? Struggling, he returned his attention to Fetch. At this point, he was just randomly pushing buttons. None of the sequence laid out on the instructions were doing anything. As abruptly as it had stopped, the rain and wind started up again in a crescendo of magical drumming, pounding, and wailing. That's when Fetch moved. Suddenly, with a whirling sound, Fetch's head raised. Then his gaping, tooth-filled mouth opened and he growled. I can't say that. As much as I want to, I would say that. What the heck? Greg dropped Fetch on the counter and leaped back. Simultaneously, Cyril erupted from his chair. What? Haiti asked, returning to his friends. Greg pointed at Fetch, whose head and mouth were clearly in different positions than they had been when they'd found him. Sick, Haiti said. They all stared at Fetch, edging backward in an unspoken agreement. That little distance was a good idea in case Fetch did something else. They waited. So did Fetch. Haiti got bored first. He shined his flashlight in the direction of the stage. What do you think is behind that curtain? I don't think I want to know, Cyril said. Behind them, a door slammed inside the building. As a unit, the boys ran through the dining room and down the hall to the storage room they'd broken into. Even though he was the smartest, Cyril reached the room first. Oh, smallest, not smartest. He was out through the narrow gap they'd managed to create in the jammed service door opening before the other boys could squeeze through. Outside, pelted by rain, streaking sideways, they grabbed their bikes. Greg figured the wind was gusting over 50 miles per hour now. No way they could bike home. He looked at Haiti, whose curly black hair was matted against his head. Haiti burst out laughing, and Greg joined. Cyril hesitated, and then started laughing too. Come on, Haiti shouted over the screaming wind. Without looking back at the restaurant, they put their heads down and pushed their bikes against the storm. He trudged beside his friends. Greg thought about why he'd wanted them to come to the abandoned restaurant. They'd left so much of it unexplored. Like the area behind the curtain, there'd been 3 doors off the hallway too. What was behind them? Greg was afraid he might have not gotten what he was there for. What had he done what he was meant to do? Let's take another drink of water. Greg was close enough to home when a woman called out, "Wet enough for you?" He stopped, wiped his eyes, and squinted through the rain. "Hey, Mrs. Peters," he called when he saw his elderly neighbor standing on her covered front porch. She threw up her skinny arms. "I love these storms," she sang out. He laughed and waved at her. "Enjoy!" he shouted. She waved too, and then he plodded on. When he neared his parents' tall, modern, oceanfront house, Greg was surprised to see a light in the living room window. The town was still dark when he'd parted with Cyril and Haiti. The only lights he'd seen were their flashlights bobbing along like dismember, dis, disembodied spirits. The flickers of what looked like candles inside, and the flickers of what looked like candles inside a couple houses. The light in his window, however, was bright and steady. When he pulled his bike next to the slits that raised the house a full story off the ground, he discovered why he'd seen light. At first, drowned out by the thunderous sounds of the wind and rain, he practically hadn't heard the motor until he practically walked into it. A shiny new generator sat under the house, chugging away. Wait. Chugging away, a cord extending past the two-car garage and up the stairs to the front house. Greg peeled off his dripping rain jacket as he climbed the steps. But before he reached the front door, it opened. "There you are, boyo!" Greg's Uncle Darren grinned down at him, his mountainous 6'5", broad-shouldered frame filling the doorway. "I was about to mount a search posse. You didn't answer your phone." Greg reached the entry and exchanged his and his uncle's signature greeting, a half hug, double fist bump. Sorry, Dare, I didn't hear." He pulled the phone from his pocket and tapped it. Dare had texted him a couple times, multiple times. "Wow, I swear I didn't hear it. Who could hear anything with this wind? Get inside." "Where'd the generator come from?" Greg asked. He didn't really care, but he was trying to distract himself, thinking about why he didn't hear his phone in the pizzeria. It hadn't been that loud inside. Could it have been because... "I got it in Olympia. Your dad's been saying for years you don't need it, but that's bull hockey. I told him he's going to wish he had one. They've been saying the storms will be much worse this winter, and wouldn't you know it, they came early this year. How about that rain we got last week for Halloween?" Dare shook his head. "Of course your dad won't listen." Greg didn't remember that argument, but then Dare and Greg's dad have had so many arguments. How could he remember any specific one? Uncle Darren was Greg's mother's brother, her only sibling, and they were close. Greg and Dare were even closer. But Greg's dad hated Dare for the very reasons Greg loved him, because Dare was flamboyant and fun. "Darren needs to grow up," Greg's dad would say over and over, "with long hair dyed purple and worn in a braid, and a wardrobe of bright-colored suits and ties paired with painfully patterned shirts." Dare had his own distinct look. That Dare was also a wealthy, successful inventor of car parts and had the most amazing luck with investments and money in general was the nail on his coffin as far as Greg's dad's was concerned. "People like him don't deserve success," he often groused. Greg's dad was a contractor, and he worked more than he wanted to afford their big house and their expensive cars he liked. The fact Dare lived on a 10-acre estate and made tons of money from tinkering in his workshop was too much. Greg loved Dare the way he wished he could love his dad. Dare had done nothing but accept Greg from the day his squished little head entered the world. Despite the fact that Greg was never a cute baby, he hadn't turned into a cute kid. His face was too long, his eyes were too close together, his nose was too small. He compensated for all of that with a long, blonde, wavy hair and a great smile, or so a girl in his former 8th grade class had said. And enough height and muscle to think he might not be a total lost cause after high school. Never drawn to typical boy things like cars and sports, no matter how hard his dad tried to force them down his throat, Greg found an ally in Dare, who didn't question Greg's likes or dislikes. He accepted Greg as he was. "Where's Mom?" Greg asked Dare. "Book club." Greg didn't ask about his dad. 1, he didn't care. 2, he knew his dad would be playing poker with his buddies. That was how he spent his Saturday evenings, even if he had to play cards by candlelight. "Where were you boys in this weather?" Dare asked. Can I keep that a secret?" Dare tilted his huge head and stroked his graying goatee. "Sure, I trust you." "Thanks." "You want to play backgammon?" Dare asked. Can I take a rain check?" "Ha, good one." Dare gestured to Greg's little, still dripping coat. He shook his head. "Unintentional. I just wanted to do some reading." "Sure, no prob. I just came by to set up the generator for you guys. When you weren't here, I couldn't get a hold of you. I figured I'd stay until worry fried my circuits and made me phone the police." Greg grinned. "I'm glad I made it home before you called the cops." "Me too." Dare started to reach for his magenta raincoat, then hesitated and snapped his fingers. "Oh, by the way, I heard you got your first babysitting gig. Glad you finally brought your old man around." It was really thanks to you. Once you threw your 2 cents in, it was 3 against 1. I'm sitting for the McNallys next week. Jake, they need someone to watch him on Saturdays." "No way! His mom and I go way back. Maybe I'll stop by sometime. Bring you guys a treat. Or bring my new puppy. I've been thinking seriously about getting a dog." "Really? Cool." "Yeah, a friend has a Shih Tzu that's going to have puppies soon. I'm thinking I've been without a dog long enough. I miss having a dog to cuddle with." There's a hair on my arm. I don't appreciate it. That's good. Oh, sorry. I just get so into reading, I forget that I'm on live and I'm like, what's gonna happen next? But yeah, I'm glad you guys like this story. I'm glad I'm getting to read it for you. I don't know how long I'll keep reading. I can't believe I've read that much already. I'm usually a pretty fast reader. I need another drink of my water. Okay. Greg laughed. Just be sure it's a nice Shih Tzu. I think the beast next door is part Shih Tzu? Whatever. "That snaggle-tooth mongrel? Nah, no dog of mine will be like that. Remember," Dare said, holding up his right index finger, on which he wore his favorite onyx and gold ring. "I have the magic finger of luck," Dare and Greg said in unison. They laughed. The magic finger of luck had been an ongoing joke since Greg was about 4 years old. One day Greg was crying because he wanted the stuffed octopus in a claw machine. He hadn't been able to get it when his mother put money in the machine, and he tried the claw. Dare had tapped the glass of the claw machine with his right index finger and said in a deep voice, "I have the magic finger of luck. I will get you that octopus," he said. And he had done it on the first try. After that, Dare called on the magic finger of luck to get things to go his way. Pretty much always worked. Greg stopped laughing, thinking about the neighbor's dog. "Yeah, I still can't believe that thing bit me." The neighbors next door had moved in the year before, and 2 days later their dog Okay. The neighbors next door had moved in the year before, and 2 days later their dog, a small but evil mutt with sharp teeth and one missing eye, charged out for Greg and bit him on the ankle. He had to have 10 stitches. Oof. Okay, I'll go and I'll leave you to your reading, Dare said. Before I go, though, let's make sure everything's working right. 15 minutes later, Greg was lounging on his double bed, reading by the nice bright light of his red pendant reading lamp. Dare had gotten the family a power transfer system for the generator that hooked up to the breaker box. With the flip of a few switches, power was restored to the whole house. Got this especially for your gaming needs, Dare said before giving Greg another half hug, double fist bump, and leaving. Even though he really wanted to get to his reading, Greg took the time to do his nightly yoga before sliding under the oversized afghan Dare had knitted for him. Dare had also taught him yoga, and Greg loved it. It not only calmed him down before bed, it helped him stay in shape. Not that good shape was good enough. Greg stood in front of the mirror and examined his narrow shoulders and slight chest. Even though he had muscles in his arms and legs, his torso was too thin, and his face... Greg's phone buzzed. He picked it up and looked at a text from Hattie. You recovered? Greg snorted as if he was scared enough to need recovering. From what? He texted back, playing dumb. You can't fool me. Okay, Greg responded. Yeah, I'm good. Need more courage, I guess. You need Brian Reinhardt's brain. He's not afraid of anything. Greg laughed. Good point. Brian Reinhardt was the football team's star running back. He texted, I could use his legs too. Fast for running away. LOL. How about Steve Thornton's shoulders? Power enough to thump scary things. Greg laughed again, but Hattie was onto something. If Greg was going to do what he'd set out to do, why didn't he pick and choose what he wanted? Okay, he typed in. But I want Dawn Waring's chest then too. Greg grinned at the idea of constructing a body from football players' body parts. He needed a good face, though, especially if he was going to get a girl to pay attention to him. I want Ron Fisher's eyes, he texted. RGR. How about Neil Manning's nose? Greg smiled and typed, obvious. Mouth? Greg thought about it. He responded, Zach's. BFG. Greg smiled. He could picture Hattie's big freaking grin. Hair? I like my own, Greg replied. Ego much? Greg laughed. GG. Greg typed in BNF and Greg flopped onto his bed. He picked up his journal and the book on the 0 point field. He needed to check. Hello. Pause it right here. Close that for a minute. Snowball. He kicked open my door. Hey, don't you make animations if you're still on there? Anor? Literally the last person who texted. I swear I've seen, like, you make animations or something. First I've had Slippy, now I have this guy. How do you guys find my streams? Like, you just pop on here and you're like, oh, hey. That's crazy. I had to pause it for a moment because my rabbit kicked open my door. I kid you not, he literally kicked open my door. You guys want to see the rabbit? The bunny. He's over there chilling. Going once, going twice. Nope, nobody. Okay. Okay, so now he's reading about the 0-point field. He glanced over at his plants before he started reading. They were the key to this, weren't they? They made the exchange he just had with Haiti more than just a silly game. Well, at least they were the catalyst. Learning about Cleve Baxter's experiments is what had launched him down the road he was on, but the plants couldn't help him deny it. He needed to review what he knew about random event generators, or rigs. He flipped through his book. Yes, there it was. Machines and Consciousness, Cause and Effect. He put the book down and skimmed his last journal entry. He hadn't interpreted what he had gotten, had he? No. He didn't think so. He was either on the right track or he wasn't. And if he wasn't, he didn't think he wanted to know what track he was on. The way he'd been drawn to that place couldn't have been a coincidence. Hello. Hi. Yeah, you. You right there. Anor. Yeah, you make animations, don't you? I think I've commented on your YouTube once or twice. Tell me if I'm right. I can't remember what it was I commented on, but I'm pretty sure I was like, oh, wow, that's good, or something. You make animations, don't you? I'm probably not saying your name right. It's like animatronics. Right. Yes. Nice to meet you. How are you? I've had you, because I think you're actually kind of a big YouTuber. Real. Yes, you. Okay. I've seen your animatronics on there too. Cause you're somewhat a big YouTuber now. I've had you and Slippy. I've actually had quite a bit of a few FNAF YouTubers comment on here. How do you guys find my stream? Like, you're just scrolling around, you're like, I'm gonna watch this, cause why not? But yeah, I think I've seen you make I can't remember. It was like a spring Bonnie, wasn't it? Pops on my For You page. That's good. But yeah, nice. Welcome. Though I don't really make animatronics, I make cosplay, really. I'm not really, like, I don't know how to do circuits and stuff. I'd like to try one day, though. There is a rabbit on the other side of the room, and he's staring at me. Okay, so we're at, like, the next... Let's see, hold on. That's so crazy, though. How is there people fighting my YouTube channel? I mean, sometimes if I get a comment on my YouTube channel, I'll sometimes check out y'all's YouTube channels, and I'm like, oh, this person does that. That's good to know. Oh my gosh. A rabbit over there. I subbed to you when I had 1,000 subs. Really? Man, I do not pay attention. Snowball, quit being noisy. My rabbit has entered my room. That's crazy. Yeah, but I like your spring bonnie. I'm pretty sure you made the spring bonnie one. Actually, I have a spring bonnie figure. Nope, that's not spring bonnie. Hold on. That's not spring bonnie. Oh, there he is. Yeah, spring bonnie. There you go. He's right there. Spring bonnie. Stand. It was like 3 months ago. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, here's spring bonnie for you, because I'm pretty sure I've seen you make a I've seen your spring bonnie one. Yeah, so he's there for you. Or well, spring bonnie or SB. If you haven't seen the Spring Diner, you should go watch it. I do have episode 2. I'm still working on it. Listen, I procrastinate, but it's getting there. I'm eventually going to actually finish the episode 2. I have all this stuff for it. I've just been procrastinating. But anywho, honestly, I think I might be done reading for today. What do you guys think? Should I keep going or nah? Nice. Still debating on whether or not I should read or not. What do you guys think? Yay or nay? Keep reading or no? I like how chat was blowing up and then they're like, never mind. Put Rumble right here. Okay. Hello. Carrie. I don't know how to say that. Okay, guys. Do you want me to keep reading or no? Giving you a choice. Thanks. Oh my gosh, there's hair all over my shirt. I was laying in the floor with my rabbits. You want me to keep reading? Okay. Here we go. I gotta move these guys out of the way though. They're in the way. Spring bonnie, move. Okay. By the way, if you guys watch the Spring Diner, who's your favorite character? Let me know. I'll look at it here in a minute when I get to a good stopping point. Let me know who your favorite character is. Do you like Fredbear, Spring Bonnie? Wait. Do you like Fredbear, SB, Chica, or Springy? Let me know who your favorite character is while I'm reading. Give you something to think about while I'm reading. Spring Bonnie, yeah. I like Spring Bonnie. I like his personality, but like, I don't know. I still think that maybe Fredbear might be my favorite, my personal favorite. Just the way I made his like Fredbear's personality, I really like it. But I also like, honestly, I like all of them. I can't choose, but Fredbear, I favor him a little bit more. It's just his personality that I made kind of goofy. But I also like how mischievous Springy is. I like how mischievous he is. Yeah, Fredbear. That's one for Fredbear. But I do like certain things about all of them because these are like my FNAF OCs, but not FNAF OCs. My sister location character? What is your sister? What is your favorite? Oh, um, sister location character. Oh man, you got me thinking on that. I'm gonna say Funtime Freddy and Bon Bon. I like those two. Just the concept of having, instead of having Funtime Bonnie, you have Bon Bon. I don't know, but definitely Bon Bon. Bon Bon or Funtime Freddy, both of them. I like Funtime Foxy just because he's pink and white. That's all the only reason I really like Funtime Foxy. But I also like the concept of having an animatronic puppet. That's cool. That's really cool. Circus Baby and Ballora, they freak me out because human animatronics should not exist. They are still cool, but I do not like human like animatronics. That's ugh, very strange. Aw, man, I just flung water everywhere. Something is wrong with my circle bottle. It keeps leaking. Man, what's you guys' favorite FNAF game? Twisted animatronics? I can't remember which one those are. Yeah, man. What is you guys' favorite FNAF game? Me personally, I like FNAF 2. But I also like Security Breach because number one, you can run around. But I don't know, like VR freaks me out too much, so not VR. Definitely not VR. FNAF Ruin. I can see that. Even though Security Breach, the whole story confused me. I'm still confused. Spring Bonnie. T-pose. That sucks. You guys can't see him. Hold on. Let me. There we go. There. He's there for you. Wherever Angora went. Anor. Yeah. I'm probably not saying that right. Move back. Move back a little. Yeah. We can see him in all his glory. You can see if you guys want a close up like picture of these, you can actually see that they're actually like dinged and whatever. They're like there's like you can see like spots where the paint has rubbed off on them or where I didn't get to paint. I probably need to put a protective layer on all of them. Oh, that's so funny. Why is that funny to me? Just I don't know. I still don't think there's gonna be a FNAF movie too. That's just me. I think they're trolling us. But I think I'm gonna stop reading for today. I'm gonna go work on some videos, specifically the second episode of the Spring Diner. I'll work on that. Plus, I'm gonna work on this plushie too. This Rumble plushie. I finally stuffed it today. But if you want to see, or if you want me to continue reading Fetch, give this video 3 likes, and then I'll make another part to it. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.